Okay, I got my new O-ring seal for the early model TH400 transmission. I got it from Classic Transmission Solutions, and it's item number CT1435. Description is TH400 Selector Shift Shaft Linkage Seal O-ring, early years 1964 to 1967. I just didn't show you the whole thing. I just showed you the price. And the new ring is in the plastic bag. The old ring is beside it. And if you get them close enough, you can tell that that old one is stretched, and it's actually thinner. If you probably can't see it, but with the naked eye you can tell that it's thinner. Maybe that puts it in perspective. So almost positive that's gonna cure my leak. So I have taken the transmission pan that I put on just to catch drips and keep dirt out of it. I've taken that off, and in there was an O-ring, undoubtedly from the filter, that I'll have to put back on. And before I put this on, I'm going to lubricate it with transmission fluid. But first I'm going to set the camera up underneath the car. I'm not going to video the lubricating it with transmission fluid. So there's a shot of the shift selector shaft, and hopefully I'll be able to put this on without getting my fat fingers in the way of the view. The O-ring is lubed up. And I know my fat fingers are in the way right now, but not the easiest thing to get on. I got the top on, I think. I get one side on, and the other one doesn't want to go on. So I've got the top on. Might need to get that O-ring pick and get behind it and actually stretch it, because I'm not having too much success without it. Sure hope I don't ruin this, because I'll have to send away for another one. I thought about ordering two, and then I thought, what am I going to do with an $11 O-ring that I don't need? I see what the problem is. I'm getting it on the, it's got two flats where the shift lever goes and attaches to it. I'm getting it on the round parts, but I'm not getting it over the flats onto the round part of the shaft. That's what the problem is. There, I got it over. And now I'm going to just roll it down into that groove. And now there's two things that have to happen at the same time. I have to get it through this. There's a tooth, if you will, attachment to the lever that causes it to lock into place whenever you select a particular gear. See if I can get the camera focused on that. It's a little inside where I'm aimed at right now. But there's a hole in that the shaft has to go through. And you're also going to be fighting getting the O-ring into the bore where the shaft goes in at the same time, because I'm sure that's going to offer some resistance. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, the shaft is already in the little bracket, that shifter bracket thing. And again, there's probably a flat on that that's got to go in. And before I do that, there is a nut that has to go on to attach that. And I think I may have just moved the camera. There's a nut that has to go on the end of the shaft as it comes through that bracket. So I'll be trying to put that on at the same time as I'm trying to thread it and insert the O-ring into the bore. That nut's not going to screw in yet. Okay, gotta get the got the nut on the shaft. I gotta get the flats lined up with the holes in the bracket there. Need to borrow the light and see if I can see where those flats line up. And this might be a place where I can put the actual shift lever onto this shaft, turn it so that I can line those holes up, or the flats up. Not exactly sure which orientation this needs to be in when it's finally on, but I'm going to just attach it like so that I can use it to maneuver the shaft. Drop the nut. Okay, I've got that tightened on enough so that I can maneuver that shaft to line it up with the slot. Okay, that's kind of on the slot, I think. Yes, it's in the slot. I'm going to try and tighten that nut on now. Let's see, make sure I'm going the right direction. As I recall, that nut there acted almost like it was a self-locking. I think I've got it started. Maybe it was just tight, but I need to get a 14mm wrench, if I recall. So I better shut off the camera since I didn't unlock that toolbox. So I don't think this is actually a metric nut. However, and you can't really see it there. Let me see if I can get this camera situated better. So you're looking at it from the front of the car now. You were looking at it from the back. That nut is right there. And as I said, I think this was like one of them weird, something 30 seconds that nobody has. But the 14 worked, taking it off, so that's what I'm trying to put it back on with. I don't know, the 14 just fits, but okay, what I did there is I just popped that O-ring into the bore. And at some point I have to get that pin in there. That needs to be tightened quite a bit more to pull this bracket vertical. It's not vertical at this point. So you can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to shut the camera off and I'm going to tighten that all the way, and then I'll be back. Okay, so I got a little bit of a screw up already, because once I got that tightened, as I shift the lever, it won't quite go into the last notch in that thing. And what I realized now is that this pin right here, there's a groove in there, and that pin is supposed to be in there because that's what actually controls the gears, the fluid there. So I have to try to back this out. Fortunately, I didn't put the pin in yet. I have to back it out far enough to get that pin into this groove. And I'm going to try to do it on camera here, but okay. Whoop. There we go. So didn't have to loosen anything, just had to adjust it. Now the pin that goes up in here, it's, as I said, almost looks like a 6-penny nail when I compared the two, but that pin's got to go through there to hold that shift shaft from pulling out. And it's got to be bent in order to fit in there. And then it's kind of got to be bent while you have it halfway in to straighten it out, so that you can push it in far enough to bend it again once it's back in place. So I'm pretty sure I'm not going to be able to show you this on camera because I'm going to need both hands, and I'm going to need to be in a position to actually put enough force on that to bend it. Let's see. See if I can get it to focus a little better. But there's a hole right there that's got to go in. Whoop. And I dropped it. Okay, I'm going to try to insert that by moving the camera, I think, because it just hard to work with the camera in the way. But I'm going to try one more time to get that up in there, and I dropped it again. So I'm going to move the camera so I can get at it. So I got the front piece of the pin in. There's the pin right there. Now the trick is, and I'm going to have to get the camera out of the way again, but I'm going to have to bend this up, probably using a pair of needle nose pliers, to straighten it up enough that I can get it through, because it's got to come through, and then I got to bend it again so that it doesn't come out. So actually, I think if you could get it straight and put it through, I don't think it could come out anyways, because I had to bend it to take it out. Okay, I got it in. It's like halfway in. I'm going to point using my needle nose plier tips to... This is the end right here that I was pushing in, and I actually got the needle nose pliers behind it and just used it as a lever to pull it in. And over here, see if I can get more light on it. It's hard to see, but right back in there is the other end of it. Now what I'm going to do, and I'm going to do it off camera because I don't think I can get it videoed, but I'm going to put a brass drift up against that and just tap it till it bends a little bit. I mean, it's in there pretty tight now, so I don't think it actually needs anything more, but I want to be safe. So that is what I'm going to do, and maybe I'll try to video it, I don't know. Okay, here goes. I'm going to put the brass drift right up on that little nail. As long as I've got it bent a little bit, it's going to be fine, because that hole is tight and you're not going to get any bit of a bend. Yes, I do have a bend in it. You're not going to get any of that bend through that hole. So the only thing left to do now is to put the filter back in and the pan back on and try to figure out where these shifter brackets and another bracket up here that's for the key lock, so that you can't take the key out unless you've got it in park. But that's what I'll be doing next. Okay, one last check to make sure I think I've done everything right. And again, let me remind you that there's no information on this job anywhere. So I'm flying blind. But I have tightened the nut on the shaft that holds the bracket. The spring-loaded roller is in place. It actually is in the last thing now. I put the new shaft seal on. I got the pin in. I got it bent. Next thing is put the O-ring on the filter and install the filter. I'm going to have to move the camera a bit for that. Okay, so I've got the O-ring on the filter. And if you have this kind of filter, you get this kind of seal, I think. So it just pushes up and the pressure from the O-ring holds it in place. And it clears the shift selector. So next thing is going to be to get the pan up. And by the way, I had a lube locker gasket in there, which is why it fell off so easily, if you've watched my other video. But it's supposedly reusable. I looked it up on summitracing.com, which is where I would have bought it because I buy most of my aftermarket type parts there. Let's see if we can get a bolt here. Shift brackets are in the way. See if I can get this started. And I can't see here because I don't have the light in the right spot. I believe I have one started there. See if we can get one in the front, or near the front. Get through the gasket first. I don't want to use any thing to stick this on, because if I do, it's going to eliminate the reusability. I think that's started. Make sure it's started good, but not all the way so that I can shift the other stuff around. And I dropped my bit. And I've shut off the camera. Oh, I see it. I'm going to be shutting the camera off soon because I'm just going to be starting these screws And that will take a fair amount of time. Okay, so I've got two started. It's not going to fall down. And I have to figure out where these brackets bolt in the nearest bolt holes. And go from there. Shutting it off for now. So everything's buttoned up. Uh-oh. Got the shift cable and the key lock in. What I'm going to do, and this is how I determined that the leak was around that shift shaft, is I'm going to fill this up tonight because it's getting late. I don't have time to do a test drive and everything. But I'm going to wrap some paper towels around each of the places where there's a entry into the transmission. So the speedometer cable, there's a shift on electrical connection, the shift shaft, and on the other side the vacuum modulator. And I'm just going to put these around it, and if it's leaking at any of those spots, then the paper towel will absorb the leak, the fluid, and it won't run along the pan and confuse you as to where the leak is happening. So that's what I'm going to do for the next few minutes, and then I'm going to put some fluid in it, and I'm going to go get ready for some dinner. But yeah, that's how I found that it was coming in at the shift shaft. I wrapped paper towel around it like so, as tight as you can get it, and you know, if I come down tomorrow and there's fluid on any of these, I'll know where to look. But that's going to be it for today. I got two more places to wrap with paper towel and put the car down and put the fluid in. So I filled it up and checked it with the dipstick, and it's deep enough that I know from seeing where the dipstick was whenever I had the pan off that it's enough fluid in there that it's definitely sitting above all of those entrances into the case where it could be leaking. And I went under, and there are no major leaks, that's for sure. I didn't see anything at all. But the shift shaft lever was not something that I would have seen right away. So I'm going to let it set overnight, double check it, then add some more fluid probably, and give it a road test.